All right. Hello, sir. Before we begin, could I please get your name?
My name is James Frank.
Okay, James Frank. It's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
And also, I do need to have you sign a consent form before we go on.
you. Sure, no
Just
problem.
explaining that before you sign us away, I'm liable to know everything about your history, and that you are willing or able to withdraw from this interview at any time.
Hey, I'm all cool with this as long as you don't tell the feds, right?
Exactly.
All right. All right. Sound good.
Patient confidentiality. All right. So, just tell me a little bit about yourself. What's your gender, sexual orientation?
Well, I am a straight white male. For those concerned, I'm 6 foot one, about 160 pounds.
Okay.
I consider myself to be somewhat athletic, but not over the top. Kind of just got into it after the last couple months, been trying to overcome some things. Uh, that's been kind of a strong point in my life.
Okay, now if you don't mind me asking, what made you want to get into lifting more and more often?
Well, I'll tell you, I was dealing with a bunch of trauma, and I felt like the only thing that could uh, really help me get along was drugs and alcohol. But as fun as that is, it deteriorates your body pretty quickly. I started to notice changes associated with that, and
Like what?
well, my for one, stomach started getting huge, and
So starting to get a beer gut, as some
yeah,
would say,
and as okay as that, most of my family looks the same,
right?
so it wasn't anything crazy, but I didn't really want anybody in my family to know that I was struggling, you know, drinking every day.
Right, right,
So that was a good way for me to burn off those calories and also just feel a little bit of physical pain.
right.
That helps. I guess it's kind of like a little bit of therapy on
A
my
little
own.
coping mechanism.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and are you religious by any chance?
Yeah, I do go to church every week. Uh, consider myself a pretty religious person,
Okay.
but once again, reason I'm here, it's hard for me to say I'm a religious person and also be struggling with the deep addiction. So,
Right. And so let's dive in a little about your family history.
okay.
You said that most of your family kind of has a beer gut look to them.
Yeah.
Can you just describe, your siblings, your mother and your father, just a little
Well,
bit?
I don't have any siblings. I'm an only child. Uh, my mom, she's a teacher, kind of I think she teaches mostly fifth and sixth grade now at a real small school. And my dad is he's a big man, very big man. He's he's a bouncer at bar, which kind of makes sense why I might be so from the drinking. I think that might be kind of ingrained in my family.
Right.
Uh, he's not much of a drinker. He just works at the counter. He's like I said, a big dude, very intimidating. So,
And what are your parents' ages?
they're in their late 40s.
Okay. And could you just describe some maybe positive and negative traits about each of your mom or dad?
Well, I never say anything about my parents, but they were pretty strict growing up. That might be part of the reason why I'm kind of rebellious at this age. Kind of I guess, kind of branching off, wanting to be more independent. Uh, Parents are overbearing and constantly obsessed with what you're doing. So as soon as I got a little bit of freedom, I've kind of taken it a mile and looked back.
Right. Okay. And now, with this freedom, do you think that could be part of the reason you're here today?
Yes, because I guess I kind of realized that I do need a little bit of guidance in my life. And I can get that from my parents, but it's hard for me to admit to them that I'm struggling with it. And I want them to see me as a strong person, a strong person who's capable of being independent. And with as strict as they were, as religious as we grew up, hard for me to uh, find it possible for them to, you know, accept that I'm, going through anything.
Okay. And now, is there any history of substance abuse, mental health disorders, or any really, I guess, trauma or abuse in the family?
In my family or me personally?
And you're in the family, or you personally as well?
In the family, a little bit. I've had, close cousins who've, they've had schizophrenia. I haven't noticed any in any of my immediate family.
Right. Okay.
Uh, had a few deaths in the family that have kind of taken a toll. My mom's brother died when she was in high school, and so it brings us all down to sometimes. We've all got our own reasons for being sad, having a little bit of trauma from the past.
Right. Right.
Those mental disorders that I know of, more really any physical issues.
And so, what is the relationship among the family? Like,
Well,
how close would you say y'all are?
I wouldn't go as far as say that I'm best friends with, any of my parents or cousins or anything like that. I love getting to see my family. Big part of what I like to do is, be able to spend time with family. But family doesn't family isn't as fun as my friends are.
Right.
And as much as I like my family, I'd rather spend most nights out partying, out doing whatever, as opposed to staying in and not really talking much. Never really talked, been a big talking family. So you can imagine why I like to be able to go out with people who actually like to talk.
And which leads me to my next question. How was it growing up throughout the family? Like,
Um,
what was the lifestyle?
well, we didn't have a whole lot going on. We were kind of I played a lot of sports. Uh,
What sports?
well, I played basketball. I was into wrestling for a little bit.
Right? Okay.
Um,
What weight class?
don't ask me. I'm not the same person anymore.
Okay.
And I played a little bit of football. I was a lineman. Uh, I know you're looking at me now and I'm pretty skinny, but
Correct.
back then I was pretty big. I was a big boy.
Okay. So, what were the communication like? Or what was the communication like? So,
Uh, we were always kind of you might describe it as kind of like a physical touch type of family. It's like you knew that love was present even if it wasn't said.
like a bunch of hugging.
That and just being there, being around, like uh, anytime that I'm down, you can always count on my mom just walking in my room checking on me. We might not say 10 words, but she'd sit there, I'd sit there, and it just feel the love. That's kind of always how it's been.
Okay. And so, how were rules enforced growing up?
Well, pretty harshly.
Did you ever get the paddle?
Oh, yeah, you know it.
Okay, right.
Uh, yeah, my parents did not hold back in that. It was never abusive. I don't want
Right,
to
right.
sound like that, but
Disciplinary.
yeah, and no, they did raise me right. I'll say that. It's been definitely tough at sometimes.
And
Uh,
now, do you think that that from the past could be part of rebellion
oh
in
yeah, I
today's
mean,
day?
back back when I was in school, if I got detention or got sat out, that meant I was getting grounded as soon as I got home.
Correct.
And now that I'm out of school, or out of high school, I should say, it's quite the opposite. It's like they don't know if I do something wrong. Nobody tells them. I do my best not to get into any legal trouble, getting, tickets or anything like that. I'm a pretty safe driver. But,
Okay.
if I was to be out, driving drunk, even if I didn't get caught, they'd have no way of knowing. So
Right.
I guess now that the punishment isn't an issue, I don't have to fear that. Really, it's not. I don't feel that pressure anymore.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So, are your parents still married, if you don't mind
Yes.
me asking? And how do you think this affected you growing up? Like, did you get more attention from one or the other?
Yeah.
Or,
It was kind of split. If I needed to go shopping and get some new clothes, that's when I'd spend time with my mom. We'd go and spend the whole day together. And if my dad needed work done, we'd spend the whole day together working.
and how were they about respecting boundaries throughout the household?
Uh, it took a long time for us, to have locks on our doors or anything like that. Even now, I don't use them, but
Right.
it's always kind of been they respect my space. I don't. Obviously, I respect their wishes, their rules, but uh, they don't, overly protrude into my business, my territory. They don't ask what I do when I go out at night, so uh, I'd say they're very respectful of it. Maybe a little naive, but they're respectful.
And just for a little context, what would you say are some of your biggest boundaries, not just for in the household, but just for you, like emotionally, just to, I guess, help you bury yourself?
Well, I've got only a couple friends that I can really express my feelings towards.
Okay.
Um, if I'm going through, tough stuff, nobody knows about it besides those friends, and I kind of like to keep it that way. When I'm, I like my boundaries to be set. That when I'm at home, when I'm with my parents, those are the people that see me as a strong person.
Right.
If I get broken up with or have trouble like that, they're going to hear about it for a day, and then that's that.
Okay.
I tell them I've moved on, even if that's not the case for months.
That's interesting.
So yeah, that's just how I've always been. I don't like to seem weak. I like to seem like I'm in control of everything. And I definitely enjoy not not having to come home at a certain time at night. I like that. It's a good aspect. I think that to be boxed in is probably the worst thing for a teenager to have to do. Uh, Especially at this time. So I guess trying to figure out who I am, to be boxed in would be very, I think, counterproductive.
And are you going through college, or what's the backstory on the educational background?
I am in college, uh,
What are you going to college for, if you don't mind me asking?
bioengineering.
Interesting.
Yeah, I still don't understand it, but my grades are good enough to keep me going. Uh, and I don't, I wouldn't say I'm close to the top of the class. I'm probably closer to the bottom, but you know, they kind of tell us as long as you pass your test, you're good.
Okay.
So
And how would you say you're doing academically, even though you're in the lower category of your class?
very poorly, very lower than I should be. I graduated high school very high rank, had an almost perfect GPA, and since I started drinking, it's kind of studying, school. It's not something I want to do. It's just something that I have to do, and I have to get through it. I don't spend time studying. I go to class every day I'm supposed to, do my homework on time, but when it comes to tests, I don't know much.
Okay. So let's see here. Tell me a little bit about your medical history. Now, it says here that you have no diagnosed mental conditions, which is good. Um, I understand if you don't want to, but it just helps me know a little bit more about yourself, just the kind of some of the trauma that you've gone through growing up, if you'd be willing to share some of that information.
Well, I can. Um, I've had a few real close friends die, and that's definitely been hard on me. I think, being in a friend group with, multiple people who are 21, it was definitely a turning point in all of our lives. Um, I saw people who had smiles on their faces before turn into people like me who can't really smile without, being under the influence. Can't go out and have a good night without,
Mhm.
you know, having to mask the truth.
Right.
And I say I don't have any diagnosed issues. That's true, but it's kind of why I'm here. I want to know what you think about what's going on with me because I do feel like I've been depressed for too long. Maybe this substance use disorder is just a way to mask that, and that's how it's presented.
And I will say I don't have a copy of it right now, but I am eligible to look into the DSM book.
What is that?
DSM book is, well, it has multiple versions, but the version we're on now is the DSM-5, which is pretty much just a basis of all your diagnoses. So, say you have a substance abuse disorder, you could have marijuana, substance abuse, alcohol, substance abuse, and all of this. There's multiple ranges that it can go through. It's like with the way you're talking right now, and with you saying that your classes aren't going very well, and you don't really study for tests, you're not getting much sleep. We would typically, we would probably range that into the moderate to severe range.
Okay, that's it's shocking to hear. It's sad to hear, but I'm interested to know how to work out.
And that's what we're here to do for you, sir. Now, have you ever suffered from any severe medical problems, like physical, if you will?
Um, Not so much.
Any major surgeries or
Well, yes. I had knee surgery uh, back in
sorry.
high school. Uh, Kind of embarrassing. I was trying to kick a field goal,
Right.
and I slipped. I busted my butt and happened to tear a couple ligaments in my knee, and I'm still overcoming that. I also played a little bit of baseball in high school.
Okay. Really?
I was a pitcher, if you can believe that. Pitcher and first base, and ended up throwing out my some some
Labrum or
ah
rotator cuff. That's the main
yes,
one.
rotator
Yep.
cuff.
Okay.
So I threw that out. I was almost pitching a perfect game. Almost pitching a perfect game, and then I pegged the batter, and that was it for me. I was pissed, and I went next pitch I threw it out.
I
Had
am
to
so sorry to hear that.
had to
That
have a
really
little bit of a
sucks.
reparative surgery there, and still like to complain about that a lot.
I can understand why.
Have you had any similar injuries?
Me personally, no, but I have had a couple of other friends as well that have had some pretty gnarly injuries.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah. Get to carry a lot of pain there. I'm just glad that I never got hooked on painkillers. I feel like that'd be worse.
Right. Okay. Moving on now. I don't see it in here. It says no legal issues besides, oh, okay, being kicked out of a few bars for MIs. Now, I can't remember right now. What is an MI?
possession. I forgot to put P on the end.
Okay, MIP.
Uh, yeah. Apparently they don't like you drinking in bars if you got X's on your hand.
Okay, right. I would see that. I can see that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? As one of the only minors in a major league over 21 friend group, I like to look cool. And I know that most of the people working at the bars, they're not itching to throw you in jail overnight. They don't want to set that expectation, so they just kick you out.
Right.
So honestly, I see it as fine. If I can trade off drinking 6 or 7 beers before they catch me, then I'll be just as happy.
And now, with you having MIPs, have you ever been arrested for it, or have you just been letting go with
They just let me
fines?
go.
Really?
Yeah,
How many MIPs have you gotten?
well, nothing official, but getting kicked out probably 12 to 14 times.
And how many of these times were cops involved?
There's one time.
So only one time.
It was kind of just a freak accident, I guess. This guy offered to play pool against me, and I'm pretty good at pool.
Or okay.
I'm all right. Some of my friends are a little bit better, some are worse. Uh, but we were playing, and this guy came up and said, "Hey, you want to run doubles? Me and my buddy want to play y'all."
Okay.
And I said, "Well, we kind of got a lot of people on this table, but you'll play for some money real quick." And I said, "How about we make it interesting? We'll buy all around." And we kind of told him right then and there, we're underage, dude. I don't want to get you in trouble. Don't want to get us in trouble either.
Right. Okay.
And as
Very smart of you.
they kept forcing it on us. And I'm not gonna lie, I wanted it. I wanted to drink a little bit. I was at the bar, and so they kept offering, so we caved. I caved. Friend didn't, but I did. And as soon as I took that shot, they flashed their badges, and they said, "All right, time to get out." And I mean, I was begging and pleading as soon as we left that door that they weren't gonna throw me in the back of their car.
Now, can you just describe for me real quick with these badges? What was the emotional like intensity that you were feeling at that moment? Like what were you scared, nervous?
I went from pretty drunk to pretty sober really quick. As soon as I walked outside, it was cold. It was probably 15 degrees outside. And
Pretty cool.
walked outside, I didn't have a jacket, and I just started blowing chunks. I was so nervous, so scared. Like I said, I mean, I was just begging. I was crying a little bit. I'm not gonna hide that.
Okay.
But that's just because I don't want that to be how people know me. If I have to call my dad and get him to bail me out of jail, then he's never gonna look at me the same.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let's see a little bit here. You have a tight-knit friend group. What does that say about your parents?
Loving.
Loving parents. Okay.
That's what I wrote.
Yeah. Most nights are spent with my friends at a bar or house party. Interesting. Okay. Now, let's see, how big of an influence would you say that your friends have on your drinking?
Well, I think we all kind of push each other, because at some point, one friend's gonna run out of money, one friend's gonna run out of beer money, and don't necessarily pressure the other into buying. It's just, if you want to drink, put some money in a pot,
Right,
and that's what you're gonna drink off for the next couple of days.
right.
And that's how it's been for probably the last few months. You know, anytime my friends are in town, because not all of us live here, but whenever everyone's in town, it's usually just a nonstop party.
And now, when you say nonstop party, what does this usually
Well, that
pertain
means
to?
if we get much sleep at all, we were lucky. And
Now, are we talking like from 8 p.m. to about 8 a.m. that next morning?
Not always, not always. Sometimes, I'm usually one of the first ones to go home.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Uh,
And now, when you're at these house parties or say parties, how heavy would you say your drinking is?
I'd say I keep up. You know, uh, my drink of choice is not the hardest stuff, so it takes me a little bit longer to get drunk, but I don't mind it because
Right.
that means that I can be drinking for longer.
Okay.
Uh, I would say I'm not the hardest drinker in the group or even the heaviest, but I do my share.
And now, mind you, I'm no therapist, but I see that it says you rarely smile without being intoxicated. And that right there kind of just sounds like you might be a little bit depressed. Would
Yeah,
you like, have you ever been to your doctor or a clinic to try and get help for that or
I
been
want
to a
to,
therapist?
I want to, but
What's holding you back?
I don't want to admit to anybody. You know, doctors are
Right.
fine. I know they can't tell anybody,
Yeah.
but I don't think I could look my mom in the face and lie to her. She asked me what I did that day, and I'm not going to say, oh yeah, use your insurance money to go to a therapist because I'm depressed and an alcoholic.
And see, I will tell you, this is where boundaries come back to play. They have to learn how to respect your boundaries if you don't want them knowing certain things,
And I know that
even
they
if they
will.
aren't bad things, you know?
Right. I know that they'll accept it. I know that they accept me for whatever I fall into, but I don't want them to have to. And if I could, get treatment, get better on my own without them knowing, that's the preferred outcome for me.
And it says people observe you as being shy
Despondent.
and now I'm not familiar with this term. Could you please describe despondent?
Well, means I'm just, I'm sad.
Okay.
I'm reserved. People look at me and they
Very
assume,
held back.
I was talking to a classmate last night. We went out to a concert and she looked at me and she said, James, anytime you're at school, you don't talk to anybody. You never, I see you walking alone all the time, but you have friends. And I just kind of looked at her and I said, well, if I have friends, then I don't realize it. And I tend to not because I've never been a very outgoing person.
Okay, right.
And I find it hard to believe that someone would actually, take interest in me. And I
Interesting.
do have a group I hang around at school, but I wouldn't consider myself uh, their friend as much as I would consider their. I would say they're my friends, but I wouldn't say that
That you're their
I'm their
friends.
friend.
Okay.
I just don't believe that in my heart.
You don't really feel like the respect is mutual.
No, I feel like I take up space, and
And now, would hear me out. Would you say that your drinking might have an impact on your ability to make new
it
friends?
does because I didn't know that girl that I was just talking about before 2 days ago. But we were at a bar. I met her.
And it, have you
I
had you been drinking that night?
I had been drinking a lot,
Okay,
and
interesting.
I met her pretty quick, pretty early on into the night, and I recognized her from class. I think I had known her. I'd known her name, or at least I guessed it right. And I tapped her on the shoulder, and said, "Hey," uh, and that was that. That was the story of that night. And we hang out the next night. We've been having a good time.
Right?
But she said, "Well, we're friends now, so no sense in being shy around school." And that helped a little bit, but I don't know if I could do it sober.
Interesting. All right, just a few questions left. Um, So what was high school like?
High school was fun.
And how were you like often drinking in high school, or did this drinking thing start after high school?
When I was in high school, I was a good kid. Uh, well, I did smoke a little bit of weed, but I can be completely honest when I say I never got drunk in high school.
Really?
Even on graduation night when everybody was drinking, I drank a little bit, but couldn't seem to get drunk. Didn't see the interest, and I guess it didn't start until maybe a couple months after graduation that I really became a drinker.
Interesting. Okay. And how were your academics back in high school?
In high school, like I said before, I did rank pretty high. I did have a high GPA because it was important to me. I wanted to get into a good school. I wanted to, be able to have a college experience without, doing something simple.
Absolutely right.
I didn't want to. I wanted to actually go to a good state school. I ended up not doing after all, but I thought that'd be the experience or life that I wanted to live. So if I had good grades, I could do that.
Right. Okay. And what was your what's your financial life like?
I
Like
do all
how
right.
is
Um,
have you gotten any scholarships or endowments for any particular
yeah,
things?
I got a pretty good scholarship when I graduated high school. Paid for my first 2 semesters at community college.
Okay.
It wasn't a state, a good full ride scholarship or
Right.
anything like that, but I did get some money. And then going into the bioengineering school I'm at, they gave me a little bit of money. Uh, I'll have loans for the next 30 years, I'm sure, but I think it's worth it as long as I get that degree.
And so I think it's time we start to get to the really bigger questions here. Do you would you say you have any potential withdrawal issues
Well,
if you were to go to say rehab or any other treatment facility?
I can't sleep if I'm sober. I can't, and it might just be because when I drink, I'm out till 12 in the morning. But when I try to go to bed at a decent hour, uh, with or without, sleeping aids like a melatonin, I've
Right.
heard works well. Doesn't work for me. I just, I can't sleep well without being intoxicated.
Okay. And so other than that, if you were to withdraw and rehab, would you be afraid of any self-harm or suicidal ideations that you might have?
I can't see myself going with that.
You
And
can't see yourself going into rehab or
no,
self-harm.
self, I've known too many people who've, fallen victim to that. Uh, and I know how bad it hurt me
Right.
because I'm sitting on the outside thinking, why couldn't I help them? And I couldn't see myself being on the inside, being the person who finds that as a remedy.
Interesting. Okay. So you say no self-harm, but would you be afraid of possibly hurting others in there? Or would you consider yourself a gentle kind of teddy bear,
I mean,
even if you're going through withdrawals?
you know, I can, I don't know if I would really have major withdrawals. Whenever I'm sober, I'm just tired. Then again,
Right.
I've never been sober for long enough to know if I would have withdrawals. But I don't know if I'd even have the energy. I think I think I'd be pretty gentle.
Okay. And so we just have a couple more questions here. what is the reason you're here today? Like, what is the reason for this referral?
My goal is to be able to find sobriety enjoyable again.
Okay. And I think that's a very good goal. And we're most definitely going to try and help you get you there.
Let me let me state this. I don't want to go the rest of my life without drinking. And I know that that's one of the steps. Like if I was to go to a double A or a meeting like that, then I'd lose that ability because I'd feel like everyone was hating on me if I wanted to drink a little bit.
Right.
Because it doesn't. I don't always have to be drunk to find enjoyment, but I just need a little bit of alcohol. And I'm worried that if I join something like that, everyone's going to hold me to a state of constant sobriety, and I don't want that.
Okay.
I don't want to feel left out of everything.
So you have both the fear of missing out as well as fear of people not enjoying you as much if you're not drinking.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can only talk to people and hang out with people when I'm drunk.
Okay. And I will say that right there is one of those reasons that will more than likely consider this moderate.
Okay, is that just because I'm kind of angry about it, or it's kind of a
Well, just the way that you stated that right there is that just you're not very happy by yourself, I guess.
yeah,
And so what you're really saying is that you need alcohol just to be happy and to
yeah,
put a smile on your face.
yeah. That's
And so, um, let's see, assessment is performed prior to therapy. And so, would you ever consider therapy for this?
yeah. As long as it was something that I could do during the day, and not have to stay for. As long as I don't have to stay in rehab or something like that, I'm on board.
And though you're doing this assessment right now, how willing would you say you are to go through treatment?
Very willing. That's why I'm here. I want to.
And I know there are some pretty big challenges, so we just have to be aware of that. But I will say we probably will need to have a couple more assessments just to, I guess, kind of reevaluate here in the future.
Okay.
So I would suggest coming back here maybe here in a couple of weeks, maybe just to,
Is that just check up on how I'm doing?
yeah, yep,
Okay.
just so we can reevaluate and see if anything has changed from there. And then we can get you set up in treatment if that's what you're still looking for.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.